Hi everybody, Matt here from Matt Likes Comics. And today I want to talk to you about a topic that I really enjoy, the Legion of Superheroes. Specifically, I want to talk to you about the Legion of Superheroes during their Action Comics backup era. This is going to be a two-parter because if I was to do it as one part, it could go on for a little bit because I like to talk about them quite a bit. So what I'll do is I will show you the issues, and to give you a little background to what's in the story of the Legion. During this period, the Legion and Supergirl switched magazines, where Supergirl was the backup in Action until Action number 376, and the Legion had led the Adventure Comics from issues 300 to 380. With 381, Supergirl took over and she had her own magazine for the first time with the story in 381, where the Legion became the backup starting issue 377. Now, issue 377 of Legion was cover dated June 1969, and they were the backup for a total of 16 issues, going through till September of 1970 and issue Action 392. So, without any barred holding, let us begin. This here is Action 377. Now, the Legion did not really make any of the covers at this time, so all of the covers will be Superman for the most part. But they're still good covers because about half of them are done by Neil Adams and the other half are done by Kurt Swan, pretty much at this period. And at this time, he had Murphy Anderson beginning to ink for him. So where Neil did his own inks on these books. So we begin with issue 377. Basically, this is just a reprint of Adventure Comics 300, which was the story where Luthor had sent a robot into the future by the name of Othro and had him attack the Legion and created a situation where all of their powers wouldn't work properly. And then Mon-El had to be brought out and given a temporary antidote created by Saturn Girl in order to stop Uthro, as the Luthor robot was known. And he then became a member of the Legion of Superheroes, although in a part-time capacity because he still had to go back to the Phantom Zone. So for the original print is in Adventure 300. So this book here is a nice, if you can't afford Adventure 300 and would like the story, this is a nice $15 change for the $100 book that Adventure 300 is. Next up, we have July 69's Action Comics 378. In this story, it's a shorter one. Timberwolf becomes addicted to a type of fruit that is given to him as a sort of a painkiller by a doctor. Have you heard the story before? Anyways, he continues to act like an addict, and this doctor wants to have the rest of the Legion get hooked on this because this particular fruit makes people very susceptible to mental suggestion, and he wanted to make it absolutely certain that he had a chance to take over the Legion in that way. Light Lass, of course, tries to stop him. She grabs she grabs the basket of fruit, pulls out for lack of a better phrase, we'll call it a thermal detonator, and threatens to blow herself up if Timberwolf tries to take some of the fruit. Eventually, his love for Light Lass shines through, and he does the right thing, and they capture the doctor, and everything becomes all right, and he eventually gets over his addiction. Next book in the series is Action 379, which features this actually pretty cool cover of Superman in a vault with some sort of ghost figure. However, we're not covering that story today, but this is still a cool looking cover. Okay, in this one, okay, apparently one of the Legionnaires at the current meeting is an imposter. Ooh, because that's never been done before. I'm sorry. And the computer in the Legion headquarters is able to determine that there's an imposter, but blows up and before it can identify who the imposter is. So the imposter follows the rest of the Legion when they go to capture a criminal, and when they but it turns out that the imposter is found when the fact is the criminal uses her superpower and uses a machine with that power to create this light, which would be a weakness for Shadow Lass. The imposter, not having Shadow Lass's weakness, does ends up revealing herself as Shadow Lass as being the imposter. Afterwards, the Legion rescues Shadow Lass, and the person is put to prison. Anyways, as I said, this is a really nice cover. This is a Neil Adams one. Next up, Action Comics 380. 380 has a little more detailed, longer story than some of the other ones. Okay, here's the cover. This story is where you start getting an inkling that Dual Damsel and Bouncing Boy have become friends, which eventually leads to their marriage in Superboy Legion 200. So Dual Damsel is apparently she's very exhausted, and one of her two selves is off doing a mission because she needs to rest somewhat. So one of her selves goes on. I don't ask me how that makes sense, but one of her selves goes on the mission while the other one stays back. Okay, suddenly they don't hear from the duplicate for a long time, and a rash of robberies begins on Earth. Sure enough, it's a superpowered duo, and with a boy and a girl, teenagers, and they discover that the girl is the second body of Duo Damsel, who is now calling herself Leith instead of, and that's Leith instead of Luornu, which is her actual name. And it turns out that Bouncing Boy and tries to stop them by himself, and he's not able to do so. The man beats the crap out of him. And when the second Duo Damsel, Leith, decides that she needs him to kill Chuck, Bouncing Boy, in order to prove his love, he can't do it. And that's when he confesses to Bouncing Boy that she's under some sort of effect that makes her evil. And that if she goes back and merges with the other body again and then rests a bit, it will wear off and she will become back to normal, which is what happens, and the guy goes to prison. But they have discovered now that that Duo Damsel's two halves can now have separate personalities, which they couldn't have before. This particular book, and the fact that she decided she wanted to get engaged and married to this other guy while the other one likes Chuck, is why for years and years later, after I read it, I would joke with my friends that she only really half in love with Bouncing Boy, and that she would leave him behind at some point because she doesn't love with her whole heart. Naturally, of course, I'm proven wrong. This was a joke, but it shows you the ingenuity sometimes of the writing of the books. Next up, we have Action 381, which has an absolutely cool. This is a Kurt Swan cover, and this one has Superman raising his flag because in this story, in the Superman story, he allegedly becomes dictator of Earth. But that's for another video. That's not for here at the moment. The story here has to do with Matter Eater Lad. He gets his paycheck one day and goes home, and his dad, who's a bit of an unemployed alcoholic man, wants to take his check as usual and go drinking and gamble it away. And Matter Eater Lad is frustrated with his home life, and says, screw it, go away. And he goes and asks Shrinking Violet out on a date. Shrinking Violet at the time is having a little tiff with her boyfriend, Duplicate Boy, so she agrees to go out on the date with him. They go out. They have a good time. It's all harmless fun. And by the end, she makes up with Duplicate Boy. And Matter Eater Lad's parents apologize for the way they acted towards him. And everything's all hunky dory. It's just a little, what I call the slice of life, a day in the life of the Legion stories. I used to, a lot of you wouldn't know this about me, but there was a time in my life where I did comic book reviews for a website in Northern Ireland that no longer exists. And I did the primarily Superman books, Supergirl books, and the Legion books. And so quite often I would call these it's the slice of life. Look, they're having ice cream. Oh no, now they're doing it and such and such. Those stories, as long as they're not every story, because face it, for superhero books, we want to see superheroes get up and down and dirty and go wham and wham. But they make for great characterization, especially when you have an organization or a group book that has 26 members of the group, and it's hard to give everybody a bit of time. So once in a while, it's nice to see this. Matter Eater Lad himself doesn't get as much play as a lot of the other Legionnaires, especially the original three. Okay, moving on. This is Action 382. If you watch closely, now you see it, now you don't. Huh? Reference to the magician on the cover. In the Legion story of this book, Ultra Boy is beaten by an android, specifically an android created by some criminals to be undefeatable and be able to get away with crime across everything. Now, it turns out that this android has only been defeated once, and in his mind, it's by a single Legionnaire. So, having been split in two, with his body taken into custody and his head, which was capable of its own life and movement, apparently, um, the head decides that it's going to get revenge on the Legionnaire that did it. Unfortunately, in its confusion, as when it was separated and destroyed, it confused three Legionnaires into one, and it was actually defeated by the team of Cosmic Boy, Chemical King, and Shrinking Violet, who end up being the same three Legionnaires who defeated in the end. This one isn't exactly one of the better stories from this era. This one feels a little forced and more and rushed to get out. So hopefully that will. Oh my God, I got that one completely confused. The one I was describing was actually another one. Action 382 is actually the. I apologize. I got that one a little off. I'm reading my notes wrong. That one, Ultra Boy was defeated by an android, but these androids are being made to protect everybody. And what happens is Light Lass goes in underneath and becomes goes into this disguise to try and buy some of these, while Timberwolf goes undercover with Karate Kid to try and discover what's going on. Well, it turns out that they had kidnapped Superboy and Manel somehow, and were using them as the models for these protector droids that were protecting everybody. So, in the end, they managed to um, end it when the guy who's trying to sell the droids decides to hit on Light Lass, and the girlfriend gets jealous and destroys everything, and Mon-El and Superboy are freed, and she destroys the guy's house and the factory and all that stuff. So I apologize. I got the other one a little. I described one that will be coming up later. So Action 382 was Ultra Boy and the protectors and light lass going underground. This one was a better story than the one I had described before. Next up, we have Action 383. Again, a great. If you guys want to laugh at me in the comments for that one, I'm cool with it. Okay? We have Action 383. Basically, this story is Chameleon Boy gets a girlfriend. And I'm going to leave it at that. That's one that it's a romance book for a guy that can chef shapes. I mean, you'd think wouldn't have any problems in that department, but he does apparently. And the last one we're going to tackle in this issue, is Action 384, where Dream Girl has a premonition that Mon-El is going to die. He laughs it off because he's Mon-El. He's indestructible, right? So he continues going on missions. However, 5 days later, as she predicted, okay, Mon-El has died because he forgot to take his medication, that is his daily medication, and ended up being exposed to even more lead. Well, it turns out that Mon-El had been replaced at the Legion by a descendant of Mon-El's older brother. This older brother, when they discover the dead Mon-El, decides to use one of the Daxam life-giving treatments, and he gives up his own life and brings Mon-El back. And that is a great point to stop for today. That was the first half of the series. We will cover the second half of the series in the next video, and I hope you've enjoyed it. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And especially you can laugh about me in the comments about my little oops. And I'm leaving it in because I think it shows that I'm actually human and so on. Anyway, my name is Matt, and I like comics. And I hope you do too. See you for part 2.